Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a series with a broad cast of characters, from a 5,000-year-old protagonist and his billionaire rival to long-haired aristocratic villains who steal souls and want to take over the world. Yeah, that happened twice, by the way. But some characters are just there to serve as stumbling blocks for our heroes on their path to victory, such as Weevil, Underwood, and Raptor. These secondary antagonists first reared their haircuts in Duelist Kingdom, where they wielded a 16-card bug deck and an 11-card Dino deck respectively, or at least those were all the cards we saw on screen. Grab your fly swatter and listen for T-Rex roars as we explore what Weevil and Rex's Duelist Kingdom cards would look like in Magic the Gathering, starting with one of Weevil's basic insect cards, a basic insect. This is a level 2 earth insect with 500 attack and 700 defense that travels in swarms and prefers the forest. Magic's take on basic insect would make it a 1/2 insect for 1 generic mana and 1 green mana. Pretty simple. To be fair to Weevil, this is the weakest creature in his deck, and he does have some much more impressive creepy crawlies we'll discuss later in the video. To augment a weak creature such as basic insect, Weevil might want to use his laser cannon armor, an equipped spell card that boosts an insect type monster's attack and defense by 300 points. This would be an equipment costing 1 generic that grants an equipped insect +1/+1. Or if he really wanted to go all out on attacking, he could instead use Insect Armor with Laser Cannon, which instead gives a 700 point attack buff. This completely distinct card would be an equipment for 1 generic, granting an equipped insect +2/+0. Weevil relied on spells and effects to boost the otherwise lackluster stats of his bug monsters, but Raptor preferred larger beasts that were already strong when they hit the field, such as Crawling Dragon No. 2. This is a level 4 earth monster with 1600 attack and 1200 defense. Despite its name, this monster is actually a dinosaur, and it has a much more metal-sounding name in Japanese, Corpse Devouring Dragon. Since this name could actually fly uncensored in Magic, I'd make Corpse Devouring Dragon a 4/3 dragon dinosaur for 3 generic and 1 black. Speaking of dinosaurs that look like dragons, let's take a look at Two-Headed King Rex. This level 4 Earth dinosaur has, wouldn't you know it, 1600 attack and 1200 defense, a solid beatstick for the Duelist Kingdom era. Since it's just as dragon as it is dino though, I'd make this a 4/3 dinosaur dragon for 2 and 2 red with double strike. 2 heads are better than 1, right? If you like turning Yu-Gi-Oh cards into Magic cards, a great way to see more videos like this is to like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know and is much appreciated. I'll start adapting Battle City decks next month, so stay tuned for those. While Raptor relied on big dinos and beatdown cards, Weevil utilized more strategic methods to defeat his opponents. One of his cunning countermeasures was the trap card Parasite Worm. This is an anime-only trap card with the effect, activate only when your opponent summons a monster. Destroy it and inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack. I know this is a trap card, but the name and the art remind me more of a creature, so here's what I came up with. Parasite Worm would be an insect leech with flash. When this creature enters the battlefield, destroy target creature and opponent controls that entered this turn. Its controller loses life equal to that creature's power. How good or weak would this card be IRL? Would you play it? Let me know down in the comments. Cards like Parasite Worm just go to show that appearances can be deceiving. Aside from these smaller arthropods though, Weevil had a little more offensive firepower in his deck with bigger insects like, well, Big Insect. Old school card names were pretty on the nose, huh? Also known as Big Ant in Japanese, this level 4 jungle-dwelling giant ant wields 1200 attack points and 1500 defense points. I'd make this a 3/4 insect for 3 and 1 green in Magic. Better, but still nothing too crazy. If we're talking raw strength, Rex still beats Weevil 9 times out of 10. Just look at Megazowler. This 6-star dino has trash stats by today's standards, 1800 attack and 2000 defense, but this was pretty decent back in the days of Duelist Kingdom. Since nothing stands in the way of this spike-covered dinosaur, I'd turn it into a 4/5 dinosaur with trample for 3 and 1 green. I definitely see Raptor as a Jund player, so he'd have attackers like Urabi ready to hit the ground running. Its Japanese name is actually Wild Raptor, so I have no idea where they got this name. This level 4 dinosaur's flavor text describes it as fast on its feet, so I'd make it a 4/2 dinosaur for 2 and 2 red with haste. Rex isn't the only one whose creatures would have some keyword abilities. Weevil's Killer Needle would be one of his more formidable creatures. An unassuming normal insect monster with 1200 attack and 1000 defense, its flavor would grant it a couple extra bonuses in Magic. I'd make this a 3/2 insect for 2 and 2 black with flying and death touch. I actually already adapted this in my Pegasus video, but the cost seemed a bit too low on second thought. Death Touch is a great way for Weevil to ensure that if a creature gets caught up in combat, it's sure to take down any enemy threat, no matter the size. Consider another one of his miniature minions, Great Moth. A 1-star monster with mediocre stats even for Season 1, this bug still has a flavor text implying its lethality, so I'd make this a 1/1 insect with Death Touch for 1 green mana. Maybe this unassuming critter really is better off avoided. Here's where things get even more interesting though. Weevil played Great Moth in conjunction with another card, his Cocoon of Evolution. In the real-life TCG, this 0-attack, 2000 defense monster equips to Great Moth, applying its own stats to the little caterpillar. I think MTG's rule set could streamline this a bit. Cocoon of Evolution would be a 0/5 insect with Defender for 2 and 1 green. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a non-token insect you control with a mana value of 1. At the beginning of each end step, place a Metamorphosis counter on Cocoon of Evolution. This cocoon needs a bit more time to mature, so we'll check on it toward the end of the video. In the meantime, Rex has a few more dinosaurs up his sleeve. Trachodon is a level 3 dinosaur with blue and green tiger stripes, said to be seen racing across wastelands at tremendous speeds. I'd make this a 3/2 dinosaur with haste for 1 and 2 red. There's also Sword Arm of Dragon, a monster with one of the most unique defense values in the entire game at 2030. Not much else can be said about this big beefy Stegosaurus cousin, so this would be a 4/5 dinosaur for 3 and 1 green in Magic. Dragon this, dragon that. For all of Rex Raptor's infatuation with Jurassic giants, a lot of his deck revolved around monsters that referenced dragons in one way or another. Then again, he also had a couple straight-up dragons in his deck. Serpent Knight Dragon is a level 7 dark dragon with 2350 attack and 2400 defense. In Magic, Serpent Knight Dragon would be a 6/6 serpent dragon with flying for 5 and 2 black. And of course, before it became Joey's ace monster, Red Eye's Black Dragon initially belonged to Rex Raptor as well. I've adapted it a couple times already in previous Yu-Gi-Oh! To MTG videos. Feel free to check out the full playlist if you haven't already. To buff up his Serpent Knight or Red Eyes, Rex could use Dragon Nails, an equip spell specifically for dark dragons. I've also adapted this card already, but here it is as a refresher. Rex Raptor also used 2 trap cards, Bottomless Trap Hole and Chain of the Underworld. Bottomless Trap Hole destroys an opponent's high attack monster on summon, specifically one with 1500 or more attack. For a more magic-oriented effect, I'd make Bottomless Trap Hole an instant for 2 and 1 black. Exile target creature with power 3 or greater. He also had the anime-exclusive Chain of the Underworld in his deck, although he didn't use it in Duelist Kingdom. This trap card had the peculiar effect to resurrect an opponent's monster to their side of the field, minus 700 attack points, and let that opponent draw a card. Its only utility in a game like Yu-Gi-Oh! Would be to allow for another attack to inflict more damage to an opponent's life points. But would this have any utility in Magic? This would be a sorcery for 1 black. Put target creature card in an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. Put a -1/-1 counter on it. Its owner draws a card. Maybe marginally useful in temporarily disrupting graveyard synergy, but I think that's a big stretch. Back to Weevil's deck, he also had plenty of cards that never made it to the TCG, like Kamakiri Man. This is a level 4 earth insect with 1150 attack and 1400 defense. Fun fact, its Japanese name is Praying Killer. I'd make this a 2/3 insect warrior for 2 and 1 black. Insects are fond of swarming, so Weevil could use his Cell division on Kamakiri Man. This anime-only spell card creates a token copy of a level 3 or lower insect you control. A cinch to translate to Magic. This would be a sorcery for 2 blue. Create a token that's a copy of target insect you control with mana value 3 or less. And if Weevil wants to buff up either of these insectoid fighters even more, he can use level 2 Power Boost. This gives an insect 1200 extra attack points plus a minor bump of 200 defense points. While this is depicted as an equipped spell card, I think it would fit much better as an enchantment in Magic. This would be an aura for 1 and 1 green. Enchant creature you control. It gets +3/+1. Gokibor has an interesting story behind it. This unassuming insect had a place in Weevil's deck during Duelist Kingdom, but it came up a couple more times throughout the series. He also used it to trick a kid in Battle City into doing his bidding, slipping a Parasite card into Joey Wheeler's deck. When the kid complained about getting a plain old Gokibor when he was promised a rare card, Weevil sprayed him with silly string and fled the scene. And in a much more memorable moment, Weevil also tore this card in half during his duel against Yami Yugi in the Orichalcos arc, taunting Yami by falsely claiming the card contained Yugi's soul. We all remember how well that ended for Weevil. For all its appearances in the anime, the card itself is rather unimpressive. 1200 attack and 1400 defense on a 4-star monster. This would be a 3/3 insect for 2 and 1 green in Magic the Gathering. If he didn't have any buffs handy, Weevil could protect his Gokibor with a card like Vortex. Using the artwork of Infinite Dismissal, this anime-only version of the card had a simple effect to negate the attack of an opponent's monster. I'd make this a simple instant for 1 green mana. You take no damage from target creature source this turn. The Hercules beetle is a bit more formidable and less in need of protecting from battle damage. This is a massive level 5 insect, the second largest one in Weevil's deck, sporting 1500 attack points, not bad for a normal bug, and a whopping 2000 defense thanks to its tough carapace. In Magic, I'd make this a 4/5 insect for 2 and 2 green. The spell card Eradicating Aerosol is useful for dealing with an overgrown pest like this one. The real-life card destroys all insect-type monsters on the field, but the anime version took a more subdued, surgical approach, instead destroying a single insect-type monster. I'd make this a sorcery for 1 black instead. Destroy target insect. I figured the specificity justified the lower casting cost given generic ones like Fel, but what do you think? Would this still be too undercosted? While you think about that, I think our cocoon is about ready to hatch. Let's see what comes out of it. It's Great Moth. Looks like it could have used some more time in the oven. In Duelist Kingdom, Weevil's Cocoon of Evolution breaks open a bit early. Instead of producing the perfectly ultimate Great Moth as intended, the moth that emerges is merely great instead. As is often the case, the real-life card missed out on some of the anime version's great effects. The IRL card is an effect monster whose effect only concerns its summoning conditions. In the show, though, this monster could be summoned by Cocoon of Evolution after 4 turns, and it also weakened the opponent's monsters, reducing their attack points by 500. In Magic, I'd make Great Moth an insect with a printed mana cost of 5 generic and 3 hybrid black and green mana. However, instead of paying its mana cost the old-fashioned way, you can summon it by sacrificing a permanent you control named Cocoon of Evolution that has 4 or more metamorphosis counters. Great Moth would be a 6/5 insect with flying and the ability, creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. There you have Weevil, Underwood, and Rex Raptor's Duelist Kingdom decks as Magic the Gathering cards. Which cards were your favorite? Got any other cards from Duelist Kingdom you'd like to see adapted to MTG? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to stay tuned for the next Yu-Gi-Oh! To MTG video featuring a Battle City deck. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.